Hi, it's David Gerard. So, a lot of people ask me about this topic, quitting your full time job. So, I just wanted to put together some slides for it, and I feel like I will use this at scale many times. So, let's dive in and see what we can do here for quitting your full time job. So, a lot of people who come to me want to quit their full time jobs. Cool. They want the freedom that they believe is on the other side, and I do believe that for most people, that freedom is on the other side. They want no boss, no set schedule, and all passion. So to actually live in what they want to do, to live in their zone of genius, to actualize their greatest self, right? And they believe that by doing their passion full time, perhaps that's one of the roads to get there. And for a lot of people, it is. There's a lot of content out there on this, but people keep asking. At least like once a week, I get in a conversation like this, or I meet someone after a gig, or someone DMs me, and I just wanted to document it, or at least my current thoughts on this topic as of October 2025. Here's what I say to them in a nutshell. First off, though, why I'm qualified. I built a 500K plus a year magic business that's been running for years and years, which is great. Built another 5-figure coaching business underneath that for fun. And dozens of folks that I've guided through this. And some of them actually decide not to quit and go full time with their hobby or passion. Others do. It's kind of a range and a gauntlet of sorts, but it's a cool buffet. There are two main schools of thought that exist for doing this. School number one is that you should burn the boats. So basically, you should quit your job right now and you should basically burn the boats. And if you burn them, you'll be hyper-focused on this and create a scenario where you won't allow yourself to fail. This is like the actor who moves to LA and just says, I'm either going to make it or not. School number two is to build it at night. So you build this business underneath the thing that you're currently doing. Now, there's a lot of personal nuance and your situation is different. Your mileage will vary, but these are kind of the two schools of thought that come up all the time. And the following slides just are how I think through this and these two schools. What I did, to be clear, was basically build it at night. And honestly, I built it too long at night, which I'll get into, some of my regrets that maybe you can benefit from. But first off, if you burn the boats, you probably take shitty gigs and clients that kill your vibe. So I've just seen this over and over again where people are full-time and they take gigs that aren't, I'll make this even bigger. They take gigs that just aren't really that great and they end up spreading themselves way too thin because they're trying to make enough money for health insurance and food and rent and all of these sorts of things. So their artistic vision has to be compromised, their brand has to be compromised, and the problem is that it's hard to wash this off. Because people see your brand and they box you. So if they saw you as the street performer, it might stay there. They saw you as the trade show guy, it might stay there, even though what you really want to do is upscale private events. Or they saw you as the yoga teacher and it's really hard to transfer into the high performance executive coach, right? Because they've boxed you. I felt like I had the advantage that I was doing what I wanted to do pretty much from the start. So I never got boxed into the bar mitzvah bucket. I never got boxed into street performing. I never got boxed into all of these things that people kind of see once and they lock in on that. And it was a huge benefit that when I kind of had a big debut, at 32, 33, 34, I was already good. My brand was clean and I had kind of refined it over time. So it's hard to wash that off if you burn the boats. So I'm not as much of a burn the boats type of guy. If you build it at night, though, you'll have lower energy, right? Because you already gave most of your stuff to the day job and maybe you'll burn yourself out, which is totally what happened to me. And I was, a shell of myself because I had been working 2 jobs for 12 years. That could have been 7 or 8 years. I'll get to that. But that's kind of the disadvantage sometimes of building it at night. My recommendation, though, is to build at night until you hit half of your income and then bail because you'll have what's kind of called line of sight into, hey, I think I can get there. Here's an example. Most people fail to just do basic math to see how this could kind of come to life and to run numbers that can actually become quite motivating. So let's say you make 100K now. You're very lucky to make 100K now at your day job. So you need to make 50K to prove that your ceramics or coaching or magic or whatever or training can get there. So it's like, how do we make 50K? I find that I have a lot of conversations where people don't do something as simple as 50 clients at 1,000, 25 clients at 2,500. And you can run all this math with ChatGPT now. It's kind of absurd. And you just basically figure out all these scenarios about how you could hit your bottom line or hit what you need to make. Another thing that's helpful that's not on the slide is I just figured out my raw expenses for the year and was like, how can I just hit my raw expenses to put myself in a situation where at least the bases are covered? And that actually really relaxed me because I was like, oh, this is actually a lot more doable than I thought it would be. The honest question here, by the way, of course, is like, are humans paying for this right now? And I think a lot of times when I meet people, they don't have good templates for how their passion can be monetized. And so they need examples of people who have been successful. So going on AI and saying, hey, I want to be a ceramics artist who makes $300,000 a year. Can you help me understand 5 different models and 5 different people who are currently doing this? That's really, really important. If you don't have a North Star to point to, it's going to be harder because you'll have to create your North Star. And sometimes people say to me like, oh, well, there's no one who does it like I'll do it. Well, 70%, right? They might have 70% of the puzzle, and that's really important. So this is simple to do this kind of math, see what people are paying now. And then there's a few simple questions that I always guide people through. They're on the following slides, so let's go through them. The first is who would actually pay for this? So who is your audience? And this is basic marketing 101, business 101. But again, I have a lot of chats where this isn't really the base layer of snow, if you will. So who would pay for this, right? Do those people exist? How big is the target market? And how many of them are actually in your city? And really using AI to do some market sizing and scoping of, oh, wow, there's actually X number of venues or this many thousands of people who might be interested in choosing me. Why would they pay for this, right? Is it the value? What is the value that you're providing? Not in your language of, I do a great magic show, but in their language of, shit, David just makes events insane and memorable, and that's what we're after. And then why would they choose you, which is the differentiation, which is where I see most people fall down, where they are just pretty vanilla, they don't stand out, and they're in 3rd or 4th place. So basically the top 2 in the market, basically it's winner take all. This is very much like an Uber Lyft model where all those other companies dissolved because it just was like, well, it's probably going to be winner take all when it comes to market share with these big category leaders. So the example from my life is who would pay for this for my magic services, for my magic and mentalism show? It's event planners. Okay, cool. Event planners. What I have found is there are tiers of investment levels, and event planners and destination management and speaking bureaus and these sorts of things. They have the higher budgets that are going to help me hit the revenue targets that I want to hit. Whereas, Jessica's bat mitzvah might not have that. So that's my audience. Why would they pay for this? I just asked them, and most people are saying, we want to make our event really memorable. We want people to come back to our conference. We want people to feel delighted and associate that emotion with Symantec, Adobe, etc. Okay, so we want this to be really memorable and fun and engaging, or we want to connect people. We want to bring our audience together. There's a lot of things here that I just get by literally asking my audience. After gigs, I talk to the event planners. Hey, why'd you choose magic? What made you want to do this? What have you had in the past? Getting that in my veins. Basic, but real. And then why would they choose you? Well, for me, right, I'm the only former Googler mentalist who they have hopefully seen and trust. What I mean by this is that I'm already unique because I'm the only former Googler mentalist, right, that's out there working. There's benefits to that, which I'll get into on the next slide, who they have seen and trust. And what I mean by this is that I hope that they have seen my show before. They've come to a theater show, right? Or they've been at a corporate event that I've been at, and thus they trust me. And it's so much easier to choose the person you trust than to go online again and start searching again. So in my early days, I was doing open mic nights in small black box theaters to get people to see what I do, because that was a lot easier than doing a bunch of marketing, which I also did. But again, we're trying to build this at night. So what is the most effective path with the 2 hours at night that you'll get or less? So knowing your audience inside and out, obviously have one audience and then interview 5 of them and just really start to bathe in the insights of what they're looking for and why they make decisions. For me, that full-time entertainer, full-time coach might have multiple audiences, but you and I don't have the luxury because we have the day job. So we just need to choose one audience and go nuts on it, right? Not the bar mitzvah mom and the party planner and the event planner and the theater. Pick one, triple down, and that's going to give you the ability to then be full-time and then expand your audience profile. But if you do it too early, then you're going to be basically a 6 out of 10 for 4 audiences, and people only choose 9 out of 10s, so the whole thing falls apart. Understand what they want, not what they need, and communicate it back in their words. So what I mean by this is really relevant for coaching, right? Like, people might not want to be like spiritually awakened, might not need to be spiritually awakened. What they want are better relationships and more energy and a better marriage, and not to have their wife yell at them, or to, go on vacation with their dad, which will feel amazing. I find in the coaching space, people are selling these needs, which are just really kind of pie in the sky, 30,000 feet. And yes, the client probably needs them and needs to be more mindful. But being more mindful gives you access to what? What is the direct benefit that you want, right? And again, with AI, just asking, hey, what do people between 27 and 35 really want when it comes to mindfulness or exercise or nutrition or entertainment? And then playing that back. So when I'm on client calls, I'm constantly just listening for what do they want, not what do they need, because the want has the emotional desire underneath it. The need feels like eating broccoli, but what I really want is ice cream, right? And then I communicate it back in their words, and davidgerard.com is just a great example, I think, of feeding things back in the words of the client. So, understanding the following. This is super huge, right? When it comes to competition and differentiation, who are they currently choosing and why? Are you better? And just being really honest about if you're better or not. I think I touched on this already, but just wanted to double down on, are you actually better than the competition? And for a long time I wasn't, so I didn't get any gigs, right? And that's obviously important. For me in the early days, this was my differentiation. This slide is mostly for younger magicians who are trying to figure out their differentiation, but here's what mine was when I was 25 or 26. I did harder hitting material, I thought, than most other people around. I really doubled down on finding the best, most fooling, most insane material. That's where I thought that I could really play. I also leveraged my tech sensibilities and my youth. And I wanted event planners to say, oh, he's like us. He's one of us. He could work here, right? Now, I wasn't going to law firms where the average age was 50. I was going to tech startups where the average age was 24. And they would say, this looks like a fun guy to bring in. And all of my marketing and messaging and visuals looked like I was for that company's holiday party. Lots of comedy, because other folks in the Bay Area I thought weren't indexing as much on being humorous, and it's my natural passion. So I was like, oh, this is a place where I can stand out. My show will be amazing and funny. I was cheaper than most in the early days. I reached out, I figured out what the rates were locally, and I said, hey, I'm newer, so I'm going to be able to do this at a discount. My day job allowed me to do that. Don't undercut the market to the point where you become hated, but it's just relevant here, right? To maybe say, hey, I think value is why people are going to take a risk on me. I don't have the big website. I don't have the big video. My show's not as good, but I am more affordable. I'm doing the Walmart strategy, and then later I will do the Goldman Sachs or Louis Vuitton strategy. I also had the benefit of knowing digital marketing, and I was comfortable paying like a lot of money for my websites and for good video, because I felt like that was a place that I could really differentiate. And I was like, oh, more exposure. People just need to see me. So again, that was theater shows, which led to higher awareness. And I just wanted to be more top of mind in the Bay Area when people thought about choosing a magician. And they'd be like, oh, well, I've heard of this guy. I heard he's great. And let's just go from there. Doing referrals and word of mouth is obviously much better. Now, of course, you'll have to change this. If you're a coach or if you're run a ceramics business or something, it's going to be a lot different. But, this created the stack of value that quickly made me a pretty obvious solution for a lot of people. And that's what helped the business spin. And then I would go and do a good job, and it kept spinning. So if you're trying to quit, build up your value, laser focused on one audience and maybe one thing like a stage show or what have you, or one pot, I don't know, since you have limited time, and then prove that the wheels can spin. And then once you can prove it, then you have line of sight into actually quitting your job. And surround yourself with mentors who actually did it, which is just huge, right? Tony Robbins, Success Leaves Clues, finding these people, figuring out how you can help them. Is it you're going to carry their bag into a gig? Is it that you'll be their admin so you can just see the inner workings of their business? Will you cut paper for them? Like, this is real. And I'm still honestly quite baffled how not a lot of young magicians reach out to me and just say, hey, can I be your apprentice? Can I just work for you? Where can I help you? How can I serve you? which is the old model in magic, right? Where like famous magicians were apprentices of famous magicians, learned and developed 10 years on tour, and then became their own special sauce. Because if you're not the obvious choice, this goes back to value, you're going to have to market like hell, and marketing is probably not your passion. And so I just find that a lot of people, they just end up in the marketing vortex because they're not actually the obvious choice and they don't deliver 10x value. So then they just have to become marketers, which is a bummer. The hard way, getting good, is actually the easy way. That's what I have found over time. And then you don't have to be spending money on ads and marketing as much. Of course, the word needs to get out, but I find a lot of people want to supplement their lack of value with just hardcore marketing, which is interesting. So let's rewind as I get close to, geez Louise, 20 minutes here. School one is burn the boats, which I'm sure there's someone else who could make a video that is all about burning the boats, and I'd probably love it. It's super valid. I know a lot of people who have done it. School number 2 is to build it at night. But school 3, which I've kind of brought to life here, is focused building at night with high value, with laser focus, with thinking about audience, with being unique and superior for one set of people and doubling down, which honestly is just a lot of fun because then you start to be good, and nothing's more fun than actually being good and competent and delivering value. So that being said, a revelation that I wanted to share that I kind of hinted at in the beginning is like I waited too long to quit. I really think like I loved the last few companies I worked at, and it was really helpful and helped during COVID and these sorts of things. But I didn't realize what would or could happen with 100% of my energy focused on magic. What I mean by this is like my business changed so much because of my manager and agent and other things. Of course, this is not a solo journey at all. But once I had 100% of my energy, I kind of understood the burn the boat strategy, right? I understood, oh, okay, this is what it's like when you can think about this all day long. And so you're going to have to take my words in and filter them and figure out between door 1 and door 2, what's your balance here? But I wish I could poke my former self and say, hey, it's going to be really good. And, I waited until I was at more than my full-time job of my day job revenue. So I waited until I was above that. So I was making more from magic than I was from my VP of marketing job. And that took 12 years. And then I doubled that magic revenue within like 18 months because I had the time and the focus and the energy and the expansion. And honestly, I could go to Kansas on a Wednesday, New York on a Tuesday. Gigs were way more available to me than they were when I had a full-time job. And so I just offer this up as an example of like, yeah, when was the perfect time to leave? 2017, 2021, who knows? I gained a lot of skills in those last few years of tech. But I am putting this out here because it's interesting, and I have a lot of friends like, one of my best friends, Colin McLeod, right, left when he was in his mid-20s, I think, and then burned the boats and was like, let's go. And we know how that worked out, Las Vegas headliner, right? There's a lot to be said for that angle too. And so that's the flavor on that. And so basically, as we round this out, that is the last slide. I just wanted to thank you for watching this, and I hope that this is helpful as you think through this. And if there's any questions, drop them in the comments and let me know. I just wanted to be able to send this to people as the kind of the primer before maybe they want to work with me one-on-one or dive in deeper or talk about their unique scenario. But this is like, it's such a passion area for me. I just so believe that people should be able to do what they love full time if they want to and build teams and companies around their passions. And so if I can help anyone on that journey, it's like I want to, because I didn't feel that there were as many materials back in the day for me 15 years ago. Now there's so much, the podcast and Alex Hermosi and all these guys, but and girls totally for building these businesses. But that's the flavor. I hope this is helpful. If it is, let me know, because this is like my first rev at this kind of stuff. But that's 20 minutes on how to quit your full-time job. It's just a small piece, but I hope there's some gems in here. Thanks for watching.